So next up we have the companions.
Yep, we got like 4 different ones to talk about here.
Yeah. So the companions are all really how good they are is really determined by what their
deck building constraint is.
And some of them don't have a deck building constraint really in certain formats.
Yeah.
So this first one, Loris, the Dream Den of the Dream Den, is 1 hybrid white black for a legendary creature Nightmare Cat, and it's a 3/2 with lifelink. It's to be your companion. Each permanent card in your starting deck has a converted mana cost of 2 or less. And at first I was like, well, it's a little restrictive, but in Eternal formats it's not really. So if you're in Modern or Legacy and you're playing any black deck, this is just a free roll. Other than like the card that kind of like might punish you is like Gurmag Angler or Liliana the Veil. But all of your like Death Shadow decks, or if Grixis Delver can get by without like its 2 Gurmag Anglers because it always kind of has an 8th card in its opening hand. Like this card is really good there. I realize that being a green-black depths player, there's not a card in that entire deck that costs more than 2 mana in the main deck. So this is just a free card. Yeah, and it's you can cast 1 permanent spell, so you can like play your Hex Mage to kill a Planeswalker, then play this,
cast it.
Get your Hex Mage back.
Yeah.
Or they've killed your Eldritch Reclaimer.
Yeah, you get to get that back.
Get to get it back.
Or they got rid of your Sylvan Safekeeper.
Yeah. So you just have it's just kind of a free value engine in like Eternal formats. Where if you can make maybe a few deck building constraints, this card is it's just a free roll.
So I'm going to go a little bit off the rails here.
Okay.
And I'm going to assume you haven't listened to Vince's video today?
I have not.
Okay. So Pleasant Kenobi was talking about how this card is just kind of absurd in Legacy and Vintage.
Yes.
Because you can crack an LED, cast this, recast your LED, and it's just 2 free Storm.
Oh.
And in Vintage, you can crack a Lotus, cast this, get your Lotus back. So this card is just a free card all of the time.
Yes.
Also, one of the things that he mentioned was in Vintage, they don't ban cards.
They restrict them. And you restrict this to 1, and that's all you need.
And yeah, you just don't play it in your main deck and leave it in your sideboard, and the restriction did nothing. Because it's always the 8th card in your deck.
They already banned Underworld Breach from Legacy, but could you imagine?
Yeah.
You crack your LED, you bring this guy back, you get back your LED.
Oh, man.
And then the next turn you play your Underworld Breach from the graveyard?
Yeah.
And you just go off? Or you like, on like turn 2, you have 2 lands, you're like, LED, play this guy, get back my Underworld Breach, go off?
Yeah.
What do you do? Yeah, this card's absurd. This card, like, works reasonably well in Standard because the 2 or less CMC for your permanents is a deck building constraint.
Yeah.
But in Modern, Legacy, and Vintage, it is not.
Right. Like you said, really, like in any black deck, what you lose is Gurmag Angler and Lily, both of which there may be other options for.
Yeah. So, yeah, this card is crazy.
Yeah.
The next card is more of a Standard card.
Yeah.
And it's your boy,
the
Karuga.
Dino Hippo. Yeah, Karuga the Macro Sage is a 3 hybrid blue-green for a 5/4. Companion constraint is your starting deck contains only cards with CMC 3 or greater and lands. So you're going to be taking the first 2 turns off.
But you're going to be playing Lovestruck Beast, Brazen Borrower, and Bone Crusher Giant.
Correct. So you're not really going to be taking the first 2 turns off.
Nope.
When Karuga enters the battlefield, you draw a card for each other permanent you control with converted mana cost 3 or greater. So Lovestruck Beast and Brazen Borrower and Bone Crusher Giant.
Yeah,
all of the things that you're incentivized to play alongside of this, you get to draw a card for.
Or if you're black, Murderous Rider.
Yep, Murderous Rider works too.
So you just basically all the adventure creatures that you were going to play anyway cost 3 mana.
Yep.
And this guy's just like, cool.
He's begging to go on an adventure.
Yeah, he just wants to come out of your sideboard zone and draw you some cards for like going like bounce your thing, play my Brazen Borrower, go, play whatever the adventure side of Love Struck Beast is. Love Struck Beast, play this, draw 2 cards.
Yep.
Like that's the curve it wants you to have. It wants you to cast 4 spells with 2 cards and then replace those 2 cards.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. So card seems it's standard playable, probably.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to see play like in any of the Eternal formats. I mean, it's probably Commander playable, EDH playable.
But if you're playing like, it's a different blue-green adventure deck than the what's his name? Edgewall Innkeeper.
Oh yeah.
Lucky Clover deck.
Well, yeah, because you can't play either of those cards.
But it's a deck that could, that still is going to use your adventure creatures to a good value. Oh gosh, this is another one that I didn't look to try to figure out how to say its name.
Gigantha.
There we go.
Yep.
The Wellspring.
Yep.
So it's 4 green-red hybrid for a vanilla 5/5.
Kind of.
And its companion is no card in your starting deck has more than one of the same colored mana symbol or one of the same mana symbol in its casting cost.
Yep. So it wants you to play a whole bunch of gold cards that don't have double colored pips.
Or colorless things that don't have mana symbols. So the reason I put this on here was Ari Lax lost his mind.
Okay.
And just started tweeting all the modern decks this went into.
Yeah.
Is this good in Tron? You just always have a 5/5 in your opening hand?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's just vanilla at that point, but yeah.
Grixis Death Shadow? Always have a 5/5 in your opening hand?
Okay.
Like, there's just... I don't have the whole list of these things memorized. I think there aren't any things with double colors in humans.
I don't know. Is that worth giving up a sideboard slot, though? Like, just for a vanilla 5 mana 5/5?
I think, that is the trade-off. And I think the problem is we don't know how powerful it is to always have 8 cards in your opening hand.
Right.
Right? Like, that is...
It's also something that's not easily, it's not easily measured.
Yeah.
There's no way to quantify where that 8th card is coming from over the course of a game, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is going to make it hard to evaluate.
Yeah, but I think it's something that in a lot of decks, if you have 14 sideboard cards you're sure of, your 15th sideboard card is just one of these if you meet the deck building constraint. And this guy seems to kind of fit in a lot of places. Lily makes it so he doesn't fit in Jund.
Right.
And I think Lily's too good to get rid of, but...
yeah, 100% I would rather have Lily than this thing.
Yeah. But you're not... There's a lot of decks that you don't realize that you're just oh, there's no double colored things in this entire deck. Okay.
Yeah.
I guess this is just a free roll in my red-green deck.
Yeah, I really hadn't thought of it that way. I was thinking more like the Niv to Light decks.
Yeah.
Where this is just... all of your cards have different mana symbols anyway, and this just lets you cast a Niv Mizzet for free.
It does. Yeah, you just play this and then you get your Niv mana. Oh, I guess we forgot to say, you tap it and you add Wooburg.
Yeah.
And this mana can only be spent, can't be spent to pay generic mana costs.
Right.
So it can only be spent to pay for colored pips.
Yep.
So it does just cast a Niv Mizzet for free. But I mean, think about standard. If there's a Niv Mizzet deck in standard, which there probably can and should be.
Oh yeah, this is a no-brainer.
Right, this just goes in that deck.
Yeah.
Because I mean, the Pioneer deck is just a standard deck, basically.
There are
only a few cards that aren't in standard that are in that deck. Now, they're big cards like Supreme Verdict, and this doesn't work if you have Supreme Verdict.
Right.
But, it's not too far off from just being able to, like, always have this. And that's something that's also weird. Like, they were talking about this on Limited Resources, right? So let's say you have this, or you have one of those we are talking about that are like kind of like, just a big dragon, effectively, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, on turn 6, if I have this deck building constraint, like, do you just play like 18 or 19 lands in your limited deck? So like you always know you're going to hit your 5th mana for this guy? That you always know on turn 5 you're just going to slam your 5/5 every single game?
Yeah. That's something right? I hadn't really considered most of these for limited. Yeah, that's interesting too.
But like, in standard, right? Like if I told you every game you're going to have a 5/5 in your hand.
Yeah.
Like you're like, oh, well, okay. So this is going to be really unusual to see kind of how this changes deck building and the way we think about things.
Yeah.
So the next guy is like a puddle of jelly?
Yeah, there was one more that I wanted to talk about. It's Umori the Collector.
Yes.
Is a legendary ooze, so we finally get ooze tribal.
There we go.
It's a 2 hybrid black-green, hybrid black-green for a 4/5. Its companion deck building constraint is that each non-land card in your starting deck shares a card type. So planeswalker, instant, sorcery, creature, artifact, whatever. As this enters a battlefield, you choose a card type, and spells you cast of the chosen type cost 1 less to cast.
So I think that, again, just like our Dino Hippo friend, this is really incentivizing you to play adventure creatures.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? You're like, oh, Murderous Rider, creature, also has Swift End stapled to it, meets my deck building constraint. With how powerful Planeswalkers are, it's kind of, it kind of sucks to not like be able to play Planeswalkers if you're kind of going like more creature focused. But again, like, how good is a 4/5 effect, like 4 mana 4/5 that's always in your opening hand?
Well, think about this in Gruul with Lead the Stampede. We were trying to brainstorm what a super creature heavy Gruul list would look like.
Well, you can't play Lead the Stampede.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yep, that works.
But no, like you are limited. Yeah. But like with how good creatures are, I don't know how big of a limitation it is.
Right.
Right? Like you can play a deck that is, green black adventures, the like old version. I think the biggest, it is a loss was Vivian was kind of the only non-creature that was in that deck.
Yeah.
Right? You play a deck that is Edgewall Innkeeper, Lovestruck Beast, Murderous Rider, Questing Beast, this guy.
Rankle.
Like, yeah, Rankle, you got a stew going.
Yeah.
And like the turn afterwards, you don't realize until you've played with it a few times how powerful the spells you cost of a chosen type cost 1 less.
Yeah, that's way better than like a ramp card.
Tapping for 1 mana.
Yeah.
Right? Because, on a given turn, that can be 3 mana.
Right, or more.
Yeah. So it's just, you play this, and then your turn 5 is like, you play 2 Paradise Druids and a Questing Beast? Cool. I guess I win.
Yeah. Probably.
So, yeah, this one, in Eternal formats, it's probably not gonna fly, though this just is your companion. Oh no, because Humans has Aether Vial.
Right.
But it's close.
It is close.
So there might be a deck where this is just like a random free roll commander. Elves. Oh no, Elves has lead. Dang it. We'll come up with something.
Elves also has Collected Company.
Yes, get back to me. We'll come up with something.
We'll find something.
Yeah, this is another one that is something that, especially in Standard, I don't think it's going to be too hard to make an all-creature deck, especially with the fact that all of our creatures have, like, fight, destroy an artifact, and a million other things stapled to them.
Yeah, they all got a spell stapled to them somewhere.
Yeah, so you get all that interaction in your creature slot.
Yep.
So